Chapter 1 Bank Lobby. The lobby of Galactic Trust Bank shimmered under a layer of artificial light that seemed designed to make everything sparkle and gleam, while Tommy Chen's second-hand clothes looked dingier by the minute. The floor was polished marble, with intricate patterns etched in gold, but as he stepped inside, his scuffed sneakers made soft clumping sounds, so out of place it felt like someone had recorded them on a stage set for a comedy act. "Can I help you?" a bank clerk asked without looking up from her computer screen. The way she leaned back into the cushioned chair and flicked her hair over one shoulder made Tommy want to cross his arms. But he knew better than to show weakness here. He held out a piece of paper instead. With what little information he had, an address for this bank, written by his parents in their final moments. "Yes," Tommy said firmly, trying not to let the tremor in his voice reveal how much he was shaking on the inside. "I need to see my balance." The clerk's eyes finally met his, and she snorted a laugh that didn't quite sound real. "Balance? What kind of kid do you think we deal with here?" Tommy clenched his fists at his sides, keeping his face as neutral as possible despite wanting to yell or argue. He needed this more than anyone could know. "I want my parents' balance," he said again, placing the paper on the counter and tapping it sharply for emphasis when she still didn't respond immediately. "They had an account here." "Account? Are you sure that's not a savings piggy bank?" She snickered, but Tommy saw her eyes darting to his tablet, as if trying to discern what secrets lay within. "Impositive," he snapped, feeling the heat rise in his cheeks, even though pride was one of the things keeping him from breaking down. "Their account number and password are here." He handed over a crumpled piece of paper with those digits scribbled on it. The clerk made a show out of examining them before shrugging indifferently. "Let me check that for you," she said, her tone dripping sarcasm as if every word was coated in mud. She entered the information into the computer, and Tommy held his breath while watching the screen intently, hoping against hope he wouldn't be told there had never been such a thing as an account under his parents' names. A minute later, though it felt like an eternity, she looked up from her monitor with that same smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. "Well, look here," she drawled slowly for dramatic effect, dragging out each syllable to make him squirm all the more. "It looks like your parents' account was absorbed." "Absorbed?" Tommy repeated blankly. "Yes, they owe us a lot in fees and interest." The clerk tapped away at her screen again, but didn't offer any specifics. This time around just stared pointedly at his face, as if daring him to ask for more details. "Nothing left behind for you here." Tommy could feel the rage building up like storm clouds gathering overhead, darkening everything with its shadowed promise of impending doom. He couldn't believe it, and refused point-blank to accept such a ridiculous explanation without proof. "Show me," he demanded, pushing himself closer so his nose was practically touching her screen in an effort to catch sight of the data for himself. The clerk leaned back away from him instantly, as if afraid he might try grabbing something. "I'm sorry, but that information is confidential." She glanced up and over at Tommy's shoulder, where two burly guards were moving toward them, their uniforms a stark black against everything else in this place, which gleamed with brighter hues of golds and silvers. "Mr. Chen," one guard said gruffly, extending an arm out to guide him away from the counter. "If y'all come with us, please." Tommy shook his head stubbornly, but knew he couldn't stay here any longer without getting into trouble that would likely mean worse conditions for himself, rather than helping in uncovering whatever had been done to cheat him of what was rightfully owed. "Fine," he growled out, snatching back the paper with all the digits written on it from her countertop and turning toward them. "But he'll be back." As they led him through rows upon rows of mahogany desks filled with other clerks working diligently behind glass barriers, Tommy couldn't help but feel how small everything made him seem, not just physically in stature compared to these towering gray-skinned Kulvari, or even the humans, who wore perfectly tailored suits rather than ill-fitting clothes. No, it was more profound. He felt insignificant against this entire system of finance and power that seemed designed specifically around people like himself falling into traps where there appeared no escape. "We're here," said one guard, as they reached a larger desk located in an alcove near the back corner, behind which sat Director Thax'vol. A tall figure with gray skin stretched tightly over his frame, dressed impeccably in black slacks and a matching jacket that seemed cut specifically to accentuate just how thin and unapproachable he looked. "Mr. Chen," Thax'vol greeted him coolly when Tommy approached, accompanied by the guards who remained standing guard behind them now. "What brings you here today?" Tommy met his gaze squarely without flinching, though anger flickered brightly through every cell in his body at seeing this man whom he knew would be responsible for everything that had been taken away. "My parents' account," Tommy said succinctly, as if stating the obvious, which made Thax'vol raise an eyebrow ever so slightly. "They left money here, but I can't find it." Thax'vol waved dismissively towards one of his subordinates, who then began typing rapidly on a nearby computer terminal, while Tommy watched intently, hoping desperately, against hope, that there would be something concrete to show him. "Your parents," Thax'vol started, once again glancing over at the results displayed before them. "They owed us significant amounts in fees and interest." His eyes met Tommy's coldly, as if daring him to challenge it further, even though he knew deep down inside that this was a lie wrapped tightly around truth he couldn't quite unravel yet. "I want proof," Tommy insisted, staring back, just as fiercely, trying not to let fear take control over the righteous anger burning through his veins. "Show me their records." "There's nothing left behind," Thax'vol said sharply, cutting off any other possible avenues for discussion before they could even begin forming in mind. Tommy clenched both fists tightly together, feeling frustrated beyond belief, but also determined not to give up so easily, despite knowing full well he was playing a game rigged against him from the start. He needed answers and wasn't about to walk away without getting them, no matter how many obstacles stood between him now and whatever truth lurked behind locked doors or hidden files. "He'll be back," Tommy declared one last time, turning on his heel towards where another clerk waited near an exit door leading out onto city streets bustling with activity despite the hour still early in morning hours. He could feel eyes following him as he went, but ignored them all, focusing instead solely upon reaching freedom once again, even if only for now. The moment outside was overwhelming noise from traffic, voices of passers-by, smells mixing together into an unidentifiable yet distinct blend unique to this alien city, where humans like himself were mere specks amongst towering structures belonging more to other species. Tommy didn't cry out loud there on the street, as he would have wanted, but it wasn't due to lack thereof. Instead, his pride kept him from showing weakness too obviously for those who might still be watching. Instead, he pulled up a map app onto his tablet, something small yet powerful against giants like Galactic Trust Bank. He was going to find out what really happened here today, because he wouldn't rest until justice was served for the memory of his parents and their stolen savings account. That was when Tommy began searching earnestly through networks, public forums discussing similar injustices done by banks under Thax'vol's rule, as well as personal blogs belonging to those similarly betrayed. He read every word like it might be a clue leading him closer towards uncovering secrets hidden behind walls of corporate lies. And while his journey was just beginning, there would come a time when he could take action based on what truths he found, armed not only with facts, but also determination forged from loss and anger. And so ends Chapter 1, Bank Lobby, with Tommy Chen setting out to uncover the truth about his stolen inheritance, and taking nothing more than a defiant glance back at Galactic Trust Bank's towering facade before beginning anew down streets crowded with possibilities, yet fraught dangers lurking beneath surface appearances. Tommy Chen stepped out onto the busy street of New Alexandria City, his heart pounding like a drumbeat under his ribcage. The air was thick and humid, carrying the scent of alien flowers blooming in gardens scattered around towering skyscrapers that seemed to reach up into the stars themselves. People rushed past him on both sides, their footsteps echoing against metallic pathways as he stood there for a moment, taking deep breaths through his nose. Another day wasted, Tommy muttered under his breath, turning away from the entrance of Galactic Trust Bank. He stuffed his hands in the pockets of his tattered jacket and began walking down the narrow street, determined to find Vera Okonkwo's law firm according to the directions he had memorized before leaving home that morning. It wasn't long until Tommy arrived at a modest building tucked between two much larger structures law firm aegis. The entrance was marked with a simple brass plaque bearing its name and an emblem resembling scales, symbolizing justice in human culture. As he approached the door, his fingers hesitated on the touchpad beside it. There were countless reasons why he shouldn't go inside, but more pressing thought and fear or doubt. Tommy felt anger surging through him, the kind that came from having everything taken away and nowhere left to turn. "Good morning," a woman's voice interrupted his thoughts suddenly, as she stepped out of her office nearby with two folders in hand. She paused when she saw him standing there awkwardly. Tommy looked up, meeting eyes of a striking African human female dressed impeccably yet without pretense, sharp suit jacket, skirt, and high heels that clicked rhythmically against the metallic pathway behind them. He felt immediately out of place despite her friendly smile greeting him warmly enough for anyone else passing by to mistake their interaction as nothing more than neighborly courtesy. "Can I help you?" she asked gently once they were face to face, tilting her head slightly in curiosity towards Tommy's obvious discomfort and uncertainty lingering heavily around him like a fog of doubt too thick to pierce through easily on one's own without guidance from someone truly compassionate and empathetic enough not just see but also understand the struggles faced by those caught between worlds. Tommy cleared his throat nervously, pulling himself together before speaking. I was thrown out," he started slowly, unsure where to begin or how much she could actually help, if anything at all, given that so many adults had laughed off his quest for justice in favor of their own selfish gains already over these past few days since he began looking into the mystery surrounding his parents' savings account, which they believed vanished without a trace inside Galactic Trust Bank. The woman's expression softened as realization dawned behind her eyes. "By whom?" "Galactic Trust," Tommy replied with more force than intended, clenching the tablet in hand tightly enough to leave marks on its surface through fabric covering his fingers beneath leather gloves worn mainly for warmth rather protection against the city's dangers. Vera Okonkwo recognized the name instantly, a notorious banking corporation known far and wide among circles discussing injustices committed by powerful entities within New Alexandria. She knew all too well how common it was for stories similar to Tommy's to surface in forums dedicated specifically towards exposing wrongdoings perpetuated upon innocent individuals like him. Her heart clenched painfully at the thought of another victim caught up unfairly amid schemes played out behind closed doors filled with expensive decor and even more pricey lawyers willing to bend laws into their favor over those without means fighting for basic rights they deserved yet denied due primarily because someone held greater power or wealth. She stepped forward, placing a hand gently upon Tom's shoulder despite him flinching slightly under the sudden touch. "I saw you," she admitted honestly, after drawing closer eye to eye once more to make sure he understood fully how serious she was about helping rather than dismissing his concerns out of hand, simply because it would have been easier that way or even profitable for herself should someone offer her a decent fee later on down road, an all too tempting choice considering how hard-earned every client brought meant survival against constant battles waged within legal system rife with corruption. Tommy looked up sharply, dark eyes narrowing slightly, as if gauging whether she truly believed him and intended to follow through, or just another adult planning to take advantage vulnerable position seeking nothing more than easy money out of desperation. "What did they say?" he asked finally, after swallowing hard, a round lump growing uncomfortably inside throat, making it difficult to speak clearly without revealing true fear bubbling dangerously close surface despite best efforts masked with bravado. "They said your account was lost," Vera confirmed softly, noting the way Tommy's shoulders slumped slightly under weight of confirmation that no mistake, but rather intentional theft carried out by those in power meant nothing had been accidentally misplaced, as originally hoped, or perhaps wished deep down inside, hoping against hope this time around would be different somehow, even though experiences taught otherwise. "What do you want from them?" She pushed further now, moving away just enough to give Tommy space, while still keeping him within sight line, so he wouldn't feel abandoned despite knowing full well how uncomfortable public displays of compassion could make people, especially someone as young and inexperienced navigating world-filled challenges unlike anything encountered before. "I need proof," Tommy replied resolutely, after several long moments passed by in silence between them, both needing time to digest information fully, understand implications, without rushing into decisions which might backfire later, if not thought through thoroughly enough first. "Something concrete showing my parents' money really was taken away rather than just disappearing mysteriously overnight." Vera nodded understandingly, though there was still uncertainty lurking beneath the surface of her eyes regarding whether anything could be found left behind at all after so much time passing without any action taken towards recovery whatsoever, besides this one teenager single-handedly taking matters into own hands against odds stacked overwhelmingly in favor corporate entities with resources far beyond reach, ordinary people fighting for basic rights denied unfairly. "There's nothing there," she said honestly, though not entirely convinced herself either until now. "They destroyed records, tampered with systems." Tommy cut her off abruptly, then before she could finish explaining further details about complexities involved tracking down evidence once it had been systematically erased from existence within digital networks spanning entire galaxy under supervision, those very same individuals responsible for committing crimes against humanity on scale unimaginable unless personally witnessed through eyes of victims affected most deeply by its repercussions. "Show me their records," he demanded fiercely, stepping closer until they were practically nose to nose, staring each other down as if willing one another to yield ground rather than back away despite clear mismatched strength power between them. There was defiance burning brightly within Tommy's dark gaze, stubborn resolve not going to give up without exhausting every last possibility, even though odds seemed stacked against him at present moment given how much work needed just beginning process before anything could be uncovered. "There's nothing left behind," Vera admitted reluctantly, but truthfully anyway, knowing well enough how futile searches often turned out once information had been scrubbed clean beyond recovery, leaving only questions lingering indefinitely without answers ever found, unless someone else happened to stumble across scraps hidden away somewhere safe from prying eyes, or perhaps even willing turn over evidence if properly motivated, such as personal experiences suffering same injustices suffered previously against will. "I know," Tommy said quietly, but with steely determination in tone. "But I need proof." Vera watched him closely, seeing something shift inside his demeanor, a flicker of raw emotion breaking through surface bravado and resilience built up over years surviving streets alone, without parents there protect from dangers lurking around corners ready pounce. Moment vulnerability showed itself, instead strength held firm. "They stole from you," Vera said quietly yet forcefully, enough for Tommy to hear clearly, meeting eyes fully with steady gaze filled compassion rather than condescension typically shown towards those deemed too young understand complexities adult world. Despite wisdom gained through personal struggles, far greater burden carried shoulders compared peers same age living comfortable lives devoid hardships faced daily by someone like him. Tommy blinked slowly at her words, as if processing weight implications behind them, finally sinking in fully after days spent fighting system alone, only to realize perhaps others out there willing lend ear without ridicule or disbelief when stories recounted truthfully rather than mock, dismissed outright before even given chance, present evidence supporting claims made sincerely despite apparent impossibility, proving such things once lost forever seemingly beyond reach retrieval. "Pro bono," Vera offered suddenly, surprising both of them, especially Tommy, who had never heard term used in real life until now but somehow understood significance right away without needing explanation. There was a sincerity radiating from her offer that spoke volumes about motivations underlying decision to assist him, even though doing so would mean sacrificing own financial gain temporarily for sake achieving something far greater than money alone could ever buy. Justice served. Tommy hesitated, his mind whirling with conflicting thoughts and emotions. He had always been told nobody helped for free, yet here was Vera offering her services without expecting a single coin in return. "How do I know you're not just trying to gain something from me?" he asked warily, though there was an underlying hope beneath the skepticism. Vera sighed softly, but with understanding, knowing well enough how difficult it must have been for Tommy growing up alone and having little reason to trust anyone given past experiences involving adults, dismissing his concerns out of hand, or worse still taking advantage vulnerabilities in search personal gain rather than assisting truly needful causes deserving attention, resources available, professionals willing put aside profits sake, helping others achieve basic rights denied unfairly. "My parents were robbed the same way," Vera admitted quietly, her expression softening further as if opening up wounds long since healed, but never fully forgotten. "I became a lawyer to fight back against these injustices." Tommy's eyes widened, he slightly in surprise and disbelief at this revelation, finding kinship unexpected source given past experiences involving adults dismissing similar stories out hand, or worse, taking advantage vulnerabilities rather than assisting truly needful causes deserving attention, resources available, professionals willing put aside profits sake, helping others achieve basic rights denied unfairly. "My parents died," Tommy confessed suddenly, unable to keep the words back any longer once Vera had opened up so openly herself. In a factory accident. They left me this savings account. I know about your case, Vera said gently, placing a hand on his shoulder again, though whether comfort or reassurance meant more for him. Struggling with emotions surfacing unexpectedly couldn't be determined without looking deeper. Eyes themselves where true feelings lingered beneath surface bravado built up years surviving alone streets. I can help you fight them, she insisted once more firmly. Now that connection made between two people facing similar struggles despite vast differences separating backgrounds, experiences, leading current situation, confronting head on rather than shying away like others might have done already without second thought, given how much work would likely require to achieve anything concrete against corporation with resources far beyond reach. Ordinary individuals fighting for basic rights denied unfairly. Tommy looked up at her then, a glimmer of hope shining in his eyes despite the lingering doubt and fear. Okay, he said quietly but resolutely. He had no choice. Every lead seemed to have led him back here, to Vera Okonkwo's law firm. With her help, maybe there was still a chance. Iondia alliance formed. Tommy sat hunched over his small desk, a pile of second-hand electronics spread out around him like an arsenal of tools for war. His apartment was cramped and dimly lit, but here, surrounded by blinking screens and the soft hum of servers, Tommy found refuge from the cold world outside. He had learned to make this space feel safe, secure, a fortress against the injustices that seemed insurmountable everywhere else. Ready? Vera's voice cut through his concentration as she entered quietly, carrying a large tablet under her arm. She looked around at the clutter with evident respect and understanding of its significance in Tommy's life. Let's do this. Tommy nodded without looking up from where he was typing furiously on his cracked keyboard. Give me access, he instructed Vera curtly. Vera set down a stack of documents, legal papers, memos, anything related to banking regulations and corporate practices she thought might be useful in their investigation, and brought her tablet close so Tommy could see it clearly. I've got you into the system, she said, tapping away on her device with skilled fingers. But we need to move fast. I know that much, Tommy replied, a glint of determination flashing across his dark eyes as he quickly scanned through Vera's screen for any signs of entry points. His hands moved with precision and speed over both devices, his mind working in tandem with each keystroke. The room smelled faintly metallic from the wires and circuit boards strewn about. There was also an acrid tang beneath it, a constant reminder of neglect and struggle that clung to Tommy's clothes like a second skin. Yet amidst this scent of hardship lay a sense of defiance, something unyielding in every corner. Focus on Thax'vol's financials, Vera suggested, her voice steady but tinged with urgency as she watched Tommy closely. Find any unusual transactions. Tommy nodded again and began delving deeper into the labyrinthine network of data. His fingers flew over the keyboard as he navigated through layers upon layers of encrypted files and firewalls designed to keep intruders out and anyone who might seek truth within. It's like digging in a sea, Tommy muttered, his brow furrowed in concentration. Everything's so deep. Just start with small waves, Vera advised softly from behind him. I'll cover you. She glanced around nervously, though their actions here were likely monitored already by more sophisticated systems than what they had access to now. Tommy took a momentary pause and exhaled deeply, trying to calm the frantic beating of his heart. He closed his eyes briefly before opening them back up with renewed focus. All right, he agreed firmly, under his breath, as if speaking directly into an unseen challenge rather than addressing Vera physically beside him. He began pulling data from different sectors, small chunks at a time, to avoid triggering any alarms set off by sudden large volumes of information extraction attempts. Each piece seemed to bring them closer, yet also further away from answers they desperately sought. Here, Tommy pointed towards a specific line on the screen he had been examining closely, tracing back through multiple layers until finding an anomaly linked directly to Thax'vol's shell companies. It's transferring funds right under everyone else's noses. Vera leaned in closer over his shoulder, eyes widening slightly at what she saw there. "What does this say?" she asked with a hint of awe mixed with disbelief. "It says thousands," Tommy replied quietly, as if stating an obvious truth neither wanted to fully acknowledge yet dared not ignore. "Funds siphoned from poor human accounts transferred into shell companies." Vera's hand tightened reflexively on the tablet screen, her knuckles going white with anger and determination alike. "This is massive," she breathed out slowly through gritted teeth. Tommy nodded grimly without needing to look up from his work now. He could feel Vera's emotions radiating off of him, even as they both remained outwardly stoic about the gravity unfolding before them. "We need more evidence," Tommy said decisively, though it felt like a statement rather than question anymore. He began compiling logs and transaction records systematically into folders labeled meticulously, according to timestamps and account numbers belonging specifically involved parties, along with cross-reference notes mapping out connections clearer still between various shell corporations and Thax'vol's personal accounts directly. "This isn't just about me," Tommy commented softly, more to himself than Vera now, as he worked through growing piles of data with meticulous care. "This is everyone's money, every single one who trusted their savings to these banks." Vera nodded gravely in agreement beside him, while continuing her own analysis and cross-checking efforts alongside his ongoing work. "This exposure needs a platform," Tommy stated firmly. Eventually, once they had enough evidence compiled together for review, enough that both of them could see the systematic nature behind Thax'vol's operations clearly laid out now, without question left unanswered within such damning financial proofs arrayed so vividly before their eyes. Vera looked up sharply from her work, understanding dawning on her face. "A platform?" she echoed thoughtfully. "We need somewhere to share what we've found," Tommy explained succinctly while continuing his meticulous organization of files and notes for easy distribution. "Someone who can publish this information widely enough so everyone sees it." Vera's eyes narrowed in focus, determination burning brightly within them, even as her mind raced through possibilities and connections between their findings and broader implications, touching countless lives unseen beneath surface layers, until now revealed clearly thanks to diligent efforts combined together. "I know someone," she murmured finally. "Someone who can help us get this story out there." Tommy glanced at Vera sharply, hope flickering briefly in his eyes before settling back into steely resolve once more as he continued organizing their evidence methodically for presentation clarity and impact maximization upon release. Dissemination platforms sought. And they have proof. Now they need a platform. Tommy and Vera entered the grand hall of the bank's main branch on Kelvar Prime. The high ceilings boasted intricate mosaics depicting the history of wealth accumulation for their species and other clients like humans. Rows upon rows of polished mahogany desks stretched out before them, each desk occupied by a Kelvari executive with their eyes glued to holoscreens. "But Tommy wasn't here just for any meeting. Today was about justice, Mr. Chen," an attendant greeted as they approached the boardroom door, The board is expecting you." Tommy squared his shoulders and stepped forward confidently despite Vera's urging glance reminding him that he was still a child to these towering figures of power. He held tightly onto the tablet under his arm as if it were a shield against their derision. As the attendant opened the massive double doors, Tommy felt like stepping into an intimidating arena where only victors emerged unscathed. Inside loomed another row of desks, but with fewer people sitting behind them. This was reserved for high-level discussions and decisions that could alter lives across galaxies. Each desk had a large screen embedded in its surface reflecting images of the occupants, as well as various holograms representing data, financial reports, and communication channels. "Welcome, Mr. Chen," one of the Culvari executives said without rising from his seat. His voice was smooth, but lacked warmth, carrying an undercurrent of mockery directed towards Tommy's youth and perceived lack of authority despite having a formal hearing scheduled for today, as Vera had managed to arrange with her connections within this bureaucratic labyrinth. "Sit down." He waved dismissively at the pair, inviting them onto one side of a table long enough to seat 10 but currently only hosting 6 individuals, each eyeing Tommy critically over their screens and reports. The room was filled not just with silence, but also an aura heavy with expectations of ridicule directed towards this human child who dared challenge Culvarian superiority by exposing corrupt dealings. Tommy nodded formally before taking his place alongside Vera on one side, while the other executives lined up opposite them, their positions clearly symbolizing dominance over those accused or interrogated. Light from outside filtered through large windows, casting a pale glow across everyone present, but doing little to ease the tension in the air, which seemed thick with potential backlash towards Tommy's audacity. "Do you have any idea what this is about?" one of the executives queried snidely, his eyes narrowing as they focused on Vera rather than Tommy, perhaps believing she was leading him here despite knowing full well that her role was simply to support and assist in navigating through these bureaucratic layers. Vera shot a glance at Tommy, who calmly met every gaze thrown their way. "We're here to discuss the irregularities discovered within Mr. Chen's banking records," she answered evenly, keeping herself composed even under such scrutiny, while making sure no false promises or grandiose statements were made which could backfire against them later. "What irregularities?" another executive scoffed with exaggerated patience. He leaned forward, slightly lowering his voice, although everyone else seemed to catch what he said anyway, given the reverberating sound waves within this confined space devoid of any insulation. "Unexplained charges," Tommy started quietly yet firmly, holding up the tablet where his findings had been stored meticulously. "Transfers into shell companies. It's not just me." Laughter bubbled through some lips, while others exchanged looks that said they thought it wise to wait and see what came next rather than dismiss out of hand. "Show us your evidence," one finally spoke, waving a finger towards Tommy as if he were presenting something trivial or absurd despite the gravity of accusations made. "Let's have all these charges you claim are irregularities displayed clearly for everyone to scrutinize." Tommy nodded once more before placing his tablet on an empty space near him and pressing buttons efficiently, causing data streams to connect immediately, with each screen around them reflecting similar information almost instantaneously. "Here," he said firmly, pointing at the screens now showing lists of transactions, accompanied by notes highlighting discrepancies clearly visible even in casual observation. Vera stepped beside Tommy, adding her observations through cross-referencing reports, which further substantiated his claims, revealing patterns too complex for anyone to overlook easily once shown directly before eyes unprepared perhaps, but ill-equipped now with such evidence laid bare. Each screen displayed different aspects of the financial scheme. One showed funds siphoned from accounts similar to Tommy's. Another illustrated shell companies linked back through intricate webbing to Thax'vol and his associates. The meticulous work done by both Tommy and Vera over days had meticulously uncovered a systematic pattern of theft on an unprecedented scale, affecting not just individuals but communities across planets. "I've tracked every credit," Tommy stated clearly without wavering once any gaze was cast his way. "Every single one that's been misappropriated." Chalk spread slowly among the board members as they reviewed files and cross-referenced notes laid out before them, revealing systematic fraud rather than isolated incidents. Their faces shifted from bemusement to concern, then finally horror, understanding fully now what Tommy had uncovered. "You have no proof," Thax'vol interjected loudly, standing abruptly, towering over Tommy, whose eyes never left him despite this physical advantage the Kulvari held with such ease. "This is nonsense." Tommy's gaze remained resolute, even as tension escalated within the room, palpable almost to choking point now that Thax'vol had stood up, drawing attention fully towards their confrontation, rather than allowing any other executive's chance, perhaps, at dismissing quietly. "I have proof," Tommy repeated firmly, turning slightly back toward Vera for support without breaking eye contact with Thax'vol, who visibly paled under scrutiny of evidence displayed clearly against him. "And more will come." Thax'vol's face contorted as realization dawned harshly upon him, recognizing his own actions laid bare before eyes too numerous here now to dismiss simply. "Turn that off," he demanded, reaching out abruptly towards Tommy, but halted by Vera placing a calming hand on Thax'vol's arm while maintaining her protective stance beside Tommy, ensuring no direct physical confrontation ensued despite obvious desire for one from both sides currently engaged in standoff over this revelation. The room fell silent once more as tension hung heavy between them, all waiting next move, perhaps with eyes darting nervously around, checking reactions others might have toward unfolding drama before them, unable to look away yet feeling unsure now of how things would resolve ultimately, given WH that had been exposed directly here today. "Turn that off," Thax'vol shouted again, this time more desperate than commanding, but also met once more by calm refusal from both Tommy and Vera, who remained steadfast in presenting their findings clearly despite pressure mounting visibly upon him, seeking quick resolution perhaps through some means other outright legal or ethical frameworks now laid bare starkly against his own actions. Andy Thax'vol's face goes gray. "Turn that off." Chapter 5. The room was dimly lit by soft ambient lights that seemed to flicker uneasily under the weight of tension and disbelief. The air smelled faintly metallic, like the lingering scent of circuitry cooling in vast server banks, hidden beyond transparent walls. "Turn this off," Thax'vol shouted again, his voice cracking slightly as he reached out towards one of the large screens that displayed Tommy's findings, still scrolling numbers and names at a relentless pace. His fingers twitched impatiently for control, but Vera blocked him with her body without hesitation or delay. "You can't do that," she said calmly yet firmly to Thax'vol, while maintaining an eye on both Tommy and the security personnel beginning to move in from their stations around the room, sensing rising conflict, perhaps ready themselves should things turn violent. "You'll arrest a child on live broadcast?" Security officers exchanged uneasy glances before halting mid-step at Vera's words, some fidgeting nervously, while others glanced toward Thax'vol seeking confirmation that such drastic action was indeed what he wanted or needed. Thax'vol paused, his fingers curling into fists, as if physically restraining himself from making another futile attempt. His gray skin seemed even paler against the artificial lights of the boardroom, shadows stark beneath his eyes, and mouth twisted in a mix of anger and fear. He glanced around quickly at the other executives who had been watching silently, but did not break eye contact with Tommy for long. "I have proof," Tommy repeated calmly once more after a tense pause where everyone held their breaths, waiting to see what Thax'vol might do next or how this would play out between them all here within these walls. His voice was steady despite his small stature and age visible among such powerful beings gathered round him today under these circumstances. "And there will be more." The scrolling numbers continued unceasingly across the large screens, each one telling a story of theft from vulnerable accounts that could have changed lives if left untouched by Thax'vol's schemes, instead used to enrich his own corporate empire unjustly, at expense of those who truly needed it most. "Show me," Thax'vol demanded finally, after another tense moment passed, with no immediate intervention forthcoming or resolution achieved visibly yet amidst such standoff now taking place between all parties present in this critical juncture. His words were low but firm, his eyes narrowing speculatively, perhaps hoping for some weak spot within Tommy's argument he could exploit quickly rather than face full consequences of what was laid bare clearly. Tommy didn't flinch, instead turning slightly toward Vera again before returning focus back onto Thax'vol. "I've already shown you," he stated firmly, but not defiantly, more a statement of fact in nature despite clear challenge being posed towards him currently by this powerful alien executive who stood towering over them both now within close proximity, while rest of boardroom watched silently, awaiting how confrontation would ultimately resolve itself here and now. Vera nodded slightly, moving closer beside Tommy to present further documentation or evidence, if needed, against attempts made perhaps at dismissing claims outright so quickly without thorough investigation into matters revealed first by this young human boy, now daringly exposing truth before all eyes, unprepared perhaps, but ill-equipped now with such information laid bare starkly upon screens visible within confines of boardroom today. "Security!" one voice called out loudly amongst the gathering crowd, breaking tension momentarily as officers moved closer, uncertain what action to take directly, yet sensing potential for conflict escalating rapidly here among them. Lights flickered slightly overhead, casting brief shadows across room in rapid succession, causing momentary disorientation, perhaps feeling more claustrophobic now within confines compared just moments ago, when simply awaiting details of financial scheme revealed rather than witnessing direct confrontation over same. "Y'all arrest a child on live broadcast?" Vera repeated firmly again, raising her voice to reach every corner of the large chamber, effectively silencing any immediate attempts at intervention by security officers, who hesitated, then backed away slightly, understanding perhaps consequences if such action taken against minor in this public forum, despite clear intent behind their presence here currently. Thax'vol's face twisted further into a sneer, but his hand fell from attempted reach toward screen displaying evidence again, as realization of broader implications sank heavily upon him, awareness now fully set in regarding potential follow should attempt made at immediate suppression, instead allowing matters to continue exposing before eyes unprepared, yet perhaps ill-equipped, still to quickly dismiss all. Everyone, Vera spoke clearly into the room, her voice carrying easily across silent tension building rapidly within confines. This broadcast is live. Every news network, social feeds. She gestured towards screens surrounding them that showed expanding views of people watching around galaxy faces, showing shock or disbelief perhaps, yet slowly shifting toward resolve, understanding full implications, laid bare now before everyone's eyes. The room fell into a heavy silence as realization dawned fully upon faces assembled here within confines today, witnessing what had been meticulously uncovered and presented clearly by Tommy. Every screen continued scrolling names, numbers, and connections that painted clear picture of systematic fraud conducted under guise of financial institution rather than individual incidents easily dismissed, perhaps now showing intricate webbing leading back directly to Thax'vol himself. "You've got nothing," Vera stated calmly yet definitively towards Thax'vol, whose face drained further of color, clearly unable to maintain composure or argument against evidence laid bare so starkly before him now. No alibis, no denials strong enough. Thax'vol's eyes darted nervously around rooms seeking support perhaps from other executives present, but none stepped forward to challenge claims thus far presented, instead remaining silent observers in midst of unfolding drama, knowing full implications should they voice disagreement or attempt dismissal quickly rather than face broader consequences laid bare so clearly today. "I won't let you," Vera said quietly, moving closer towards Tommy, now almost protective stance between him and potential threats, perhaps looming larger given current standoff amidst boardroom walls. Her hand rested lightly on Tommy's shoulder, providing silent support yet not drawing any undue attention away from central focus of confrontation here currently ongoing among them. "Turn that off," Thax'vol shouted once more desperately, voice cracking slightly under sheer force of pressure mounting visibly upon him, now unable to simply dismiss findings outright or maintain facade of authority so easily perhaps given circumstances laid bare before all eyes within confines today. His fingers twitched towards screen again, but Vera blocked any reach with firm yet gentle hand, maintaining protective stance beside Tommy. "Thax'vol," another voice called out quietly, amidst tense silence, perhaps seeking compromise rather than confrontation, escalating further now visible among them here within boardroom walls today. "What will it take?" The room seemed to hold its breath as Thax'vol's eyes darted back towards source of question, perhaps weighing options quickly, understanding full implications should direct suppression attempted thus far, instead allowing matters unfold naturally given circumstances already laid bare before everyone. "I won't turn this off," Vera stated firmly, her voice carrying easily across tense atmosphere, now fully aware potential ramifications if such action taken directly here against minor, exposing truth so clearly yet too soon dismissed, perhaps with broader consequences looming larger than immediate resolution sought quickly amidst stand off thus far witnessed. Thax'vol's face went gray as realization sank heavily upon him, understanding full implications should attempt made at suppression rather allowing matters continue exposing before eyes unprepared yet ill-equipped still dismiss fully given evidence laid bare so clearly today. His fingers trembled slightly against Vera's firm hold, blocking any reach towards screen, thus far maintaining standoff amidst boardroom walls now. "Turn that off," Thax'vol shouted again, this time more desperate than commanding, but also met once more by calm refusal from both Tommy and Vera, who remained steadfast in presenting their findings clearly despite pressure mounting visibly upon him, seeking quick resolution perhaps through some means other outright legal or ethical frameworks now laid bare starkly against his own actions. The room was silent once more as tension hung heavy between them, all waiting next move yet understanding fully implications should attempt made at suppression directly thus far, instead allowing matters continue exposing before eyes unprepared yet ill-equipped still dismiss fully given evidence laid bare so clearly today amidst standoff among boardroom walls now visible to everyone present. Chapter 6 Justice. The room fell silent as Thax'vol's voice echoed through it one last desperate plea before reality settled heavily over him like a shroud of inevitability. His eyes darted around the boardroom, in search of an escape or a loophole, his fingers twitching against Vera's gentle yet firm grip that blocked any attempt to silence Tommy once more. Thax'vol, another voice called out quietly amidst the tense atmosphere, perhaps seeking compromise rather than confrontation, escalating further now visible among them here within the confines of the boardroom walls. What will it take? The air felt thick with tension as Thax'vol's eyes narrowed, his breath coming in short gasps as he struggled to maintain a semblance of control over the situation that was spiraling out of reach like a starship tumbling through space. "I won't turn this off," Vera stated firmly, her voice carrying easily across the room and settling into each person's mind with an unspoken promise of consequences should anyone dare challenge it. Her hand remained steady on Tommy's shoulder, offering both protection and support to the young boy who had so brazenly stood up against one of their most powerful figures. Thax'vol's face drained of color as realization sank heavily upon him, understanding full implications if he were to attempt suppression rather than allowing matters to continue unfolding naturally. The room smelled faintly of expensive cologne and stale air, the lights above flickering slightly with the strain of powering so many screens displaying damning evidence that had been meticulously uncovered by Tommy's relentless determination. "Turn it off!" Thax'vol shouted again, his voice cracking under the weight of defeat as he realized there was no way to dismiss or ignore what lay before him. His fingers twitched towards the screen once more, but Vera blocked any attempt with a gentle yet firm hand, maintaining her protective stance beside Tommy. The room remained silent for long moments after that final plea from Thax'vol, each person seemingly holding their breath as they waited for some form of resolution amidst this standoff within the boardroom walls. It was Director Zark who finally broke the silence with a heavy sigh and a nod towards Vera, acknowledging the inevitable outcome despite his distaste for it. "Proceed," he said quietly but firmly to Tommy and Vera, turning away from Thax'vol's pleading eyes toward them instead. Tommy took a deep breath before tapping on the screen again, bringing up fresh reports of restitution orders being filed against the bank. He scrolled through each document carefully until reaching one detailing the return of his parents' lost savings account along with substantial punitive damages to be paid out for all victims like himself who had been wronged by this corruption. "Here it is," Tommy said quietly yet clearly, turning towards the group assembled around him and directing their attention back toward these documents, which now sat displayed prominently on Vera's terminal. "This is what they owe me." Thax'vol's condescending sneer twisted into a mask of pure panic as he watched his carefully constructed empire begin to crumble under Tommy's relentless pursuit for justice, a young human boy standing up against him and forcing the truth out from beneath layers upon layers of deceit. Impossible, Thax'vol spat, fingers curling tightly around the armrests in desperate attempts at maintaining some semblance of control over this situation, which was spiraling beyond his grasp like a ship caught in an asteroid field. But the room remained silent, Director Zark's earlier pronouncement hanging heavy between them all. "Your arrest is being processed," another member of the board announced flatly, moving quickly to implement orders already underway for Thax'vol's removal from power amidst revelations laid bare today within these walls. The lights flickered again as emergency protocols initiated across various systems throughout the building in preparation for this shift in leadership and responsibility. Thax'vol's eyes widened briefly before narrowing into a hateful glare directed at Tommy once more, his lips curling back over teeth clenched tightly together in rage and humiliation. "You think you've won?" he snarled through gritted teeth as guards began approaching him with handcuffs ready for use should resistance prove necessary. Tommy met Thax'vol's gaze calmly, a small but defiant smile playing at the corners of his lips, despite the overwhelming tension surrounding them all here within these boardroom walls. "I just got my balance back," he replied simply yet pointedly before turning away from him towards Vera, who nodded in approval at this young human's unyielding spirit throughout their ordeal. The arrest proceedings moved swiftly, Thax'vol being escorted out by security personnel amidst murmurs of disbelief and shock among remaining board members still processing these sudden revelations about systemic corruption within their ranks. The air seemed to grow cooler as a fresh breeze entered through open windows, allowing sunlight from outside filtering into the room once more after hours spent sealed away in tense negotiations. Vera moved closer towards Tommy again, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder, offering silent support and congratulations for job well done amidst these dire circumstances they faced together. "Well," she began quietly with a small smile playing at lips now, eyes meeting Tommy's dark ones full of defiance yet also gratitude given everything unfolded thus far. "I need to make this public immediately," another board member stated firmly, moving quickly towards center of room, pulling out holopad to begin dissemination process regarding Thax'vol's arrest and restitution orders being filed against bank for all victims affected similarly by such corrupt practices exposed today within these walls. The atmosphere remained tense yet palpably different now compared earlier, with weight lifted off shoulders after seeing justice served, even in small part, amidst broader implications looming larger still. Tommy watched silently as information began spreading rapidly across networks, news agencies picking up on story almost instantly due to gravity of situation and sheer scale involved given revelations made against powerful corporate entity here within their midst. His heart swelled with a mixture of relief and determination, knowing that not only had he managed to secure what was rightfully his, but also paved way for others similarly wronged by same corrupt system now facing consequences long overdue. "Mr. Chen," Vera addressed him formally yet respectfully once more, drawing Tommy's attention back towards her presence beside him amidst these unfolding events still settling over boardroom walls here today. "What will you do?" Tommy looked at her steadily, under his dark eyes reflecting mixture of exhaustion and triumph in equal measure as days of relentless pursuit finally bore fruit beyond anything he could have hoped for initially. He took a deep breath before responding quietly yet firmly, voice carrying easily across rooms, settling into minds present alike with clear understanding given future direction chosen here amidst aftermath exposed truths today. Go to school, Tommy replied simply but resolutely, looking directly at Vera, who nodded in agreement despite slight surprise behind her gaze at simplicity of his response. Get smarter. Another pause followed as he continued, voice carrying sense finality, yet determination echoing through every word spoken aloud within this space now liberated from oppressive shadow cast by corruption previously ruling these halls. So next time someone tries something like this, Tommy added quietly, but firmly, meeting each person's eyes in turn gathered around them here today, understanding full implications, given actions taken thus far amidst broader picture forming still. I'm ready. His words resonated with room as silence fell once more over everyone present, taking moment to fully absorb weight and significance behind these simple yet powerful declarations made by a young human boy who had stood up against insurmountable odds facing him here within these boardroom walls today. Vera nodded in agreement, again turning slightly towards Tommy now, despite slight surprise lingering still behind her gaze at clarity provided given future direction chosen amidst aftermath exposed truths. When you're old enough, I'll offer you an internship at my firm, she stated quietly yet firmly, meeting eyes steadily under dark ones reflecting mixture of exhaustion triumph alike. Tommy smiled softly, in return grateful acknowledgement Vera's words, despite knowing full well journey ahead still lies long road filled with challenges awaiting him beyond immediate victory secured here today amidst broader picture forming given actions taken thus far against corruption previously ruling these halls. Thank you, he replied simply but sincerely, looking directly at her before glancing one last time towards towering building that once symbolized power and control over lives like his parents' savings account lost within its grasp. A kid they dismissed, a human they underestimated, no standing tall in face of their own arrogance, faced with consequences long overdue now finally coming due amidst broader picture forming given actions taken thus far against corruption previously ruling these halls. He smiled quietly, under dark eyes reflecting mixture exhaustion triumph alike, as he turned away from towering buildings symbolizing power control once over lives like his parents' savings account lost within its grasp. They should have just given me my balance, Tommy murmured softly to himself amidst cool breeze filtering through open windows here, final moment pausing before moving forward towards brighter future still lies ahead beyond immediate victory secured today against corruption previously ruling these halls. Sometimes the smallest voice echoes loudest,